Should be RomneyAudio.Africa.
Romy Titus and Kevin McCallum. Not the sports news.
The boards have spoken.
Streaming data-free on the MTN network in South Africa. This is where Africa comes to play.
That is a masterclass.
On your phone, online, and on demand at omniaudio.africa.
It's mayhem.
Not the sports news.
Goeiemôre, Dumelang.
Hello, how's it?
Hoe gaan dit?
It is May, and it is ham, and it's a ham.
Yeah, it is mayhem. It is mayhem. Good morning. You know, I just worked it out. Mdu looks like Bruce Vuma, the Chiefs goalkeeper.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's a big...
I always wondered, like, hold on, man. It looks like someone. And then the other day, I put it together.
Oh.
We're going to put two pictures together online and then ask our listeners to vote.
Is Bruce Vuma also overweight?
Anyway, as we were saying, come on. They're not
news,
overweight. They
no.
lean, they mean. That is Sundowns. Wow. And they have claimed since the 2020-2021 season, 5 back-to-back. No, I lie. 5 they've won. Let me just get everything into perspective here.
All right,
Since
let's start again.
Since 2021, they've won the season before the last day of the season.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So now they're 4 points away from doing that again, which would make it 6 times. And then it's 8 consecutive, like back-to-backs, you know?
Is it a thing in South African football, in the PSL, to give, what are they called? Not corridors of honor, but...
Yes, it is.
Basically, they stand up and they, well done.
Yeah, God of honor.
Yeah, I mean...
I don't know, words are leaving me today.
It is God of honor.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is. So, yes, they do that as the champs come out. We were talking about injuries. Shalulile sitting out in the stands. Williams sitting out in the stands. Onyango in the sticks. But I sadly took medication because I'm not feeling the greatest and fell asleep after the second goal. But it was Iki, it was Adams, and it was Maseko that got their names on the score sheet.
Jadam Adams has stepped up since he's moved.
Wow,
He's
actually.
just,
And remember, I was quite cynical. I was just like so young, so tender.
Yeah.
You come into a position where you have the grass that even bows down when he comes onto the pitch, and that is Temba's one. You know, and I was just like, I don't know if this is going to make or break him. And I honestly thought maybe a little too fragile for a break. But no, was I wrong? I mean, he has stood up in more ways than one to say that, you know what, I've earned this, I should be here, and watch me make a mark. And I also like that he's younger, you know, so there's still so much room to grow. I think he had a birthday just now recently.
How old is he? Sorry, 20, is he 25? 21? I thought he was a little bit older than that. Okay, no,
Very
good.
young and tender. Hence I said, perhaps a break,
Tender,
you know.
Yeah. so, I mean, Sundowns have scored 57 goals already this season, which is a club record in the league campaign in the PSL era. That's outstanding. Chile boys are in trouble though. They're just going down. Or they just keep,
Look,
they
but
just keep
they're
slipping.
eighth, right?
Yeah, but they just keep slipping, so they're
yeah.
not going to get in.
Slipping, falling.
It's so-called
Can't
magical
get up.
top 8. I do wonder if there's too many football tournaments in South Africa in terms of, like somebody like Sundowns. They play every single game. They've got the Champions League final coming up now.
Correct.
They must be exhausted.
They are dead.
Yeah.
They are tired because it's also Club World Cup that they've got to save themselves for, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think we'll see any of the Sundowns players in the friendlies that Bafana are arranging for June either, you know, based on the fact that obviously they're needed elsewhere and these are just friendlies. But they're tired. They're exhausted. And then also you've got to rotate the team. I think they've got a big enough team to be able to rotate, but we're obviously seeing the same playmakers, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Over and over. Maseko coming off the bench, I believe, yesterday, scoring that third goal. It is an Iki that is, I guess, he's starting more. Adams we're always seeing there. A Mudau we're always seeing. A Postman we're always seeing. But I also do think that it is time to refresh.
Yeah, it is. I mean, maybe we don't need the MTN8. I mean, that sounds terrible, but we've got the Nedbank Cup. You've got the PSL. You've got CAF Champions League. You've got Conference League. Yeah,
I mean, who was it that said they were going to take away the extra time? And I really like that. But I mean, you're going to do a little bit more than that in order to save legs, save energy, save bodies that are put on the line. It's far too congested, Kev. I have to agree with that. And we're going to start seeing players like a Williams, like a Shalulile, who now have injuries more and more and more. Why? Because they're overloaded. Your body can also only take so much.
And there also is going to be so we're watching entertainment. So the product is going to be good. And if the product isn't good and if there's too much product, it's like having chappies at 1 cent each. You know, you can buy a ton of them.
The flavor's going to run out after you chew 5 times.
Exactly that. So
but I think you make a good point, because it is entertainment, right? So where do you draw the line between entertaining and winning? Because there has to be that fan value, right? I'm watching why.
Yeah.
For what reason? For you to win? No. How are you winning? What are you giving me? There's got to be some entertainment. There's got to be.
Well, that's why you watch sport. It's the greatest reality television in the world. It is, because you don't know what's going to happen. You know,
True.
People don't get voted out unless it's the black label competition, whatever that. No,
it works differently.
That's voted in. But I mean, Sundowns obviously one of the safe players for this World Club Cup. 174 million rand they're going to get.
It's insane. World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
daft
mad money, man.
Yeah, but that's money for the season. That'll probably. That's what Steppi's monthly salary, isn't it? I mean, that's just pretty much.
It's a lot of money, but okay, we watch, because it's only 4 points that they need in order to claim an 8th successive Betway Prem.
So PSL has now confirmed that the Nedbank Cup is sold out, but
Probably
madness,
sold out
mayhem,
or overly sold out.
Yeah, mayhem still again. I mean, it was just an absolute. It was a cock up. Let's be blatant about it.
Yeah, it was a bit of a blunder. I'm nervous for the actual day, because what is going to happen if it is that you've been issued a ticket, and I believe there were over 5,000 tickets issued at the various outlets yesterday, yes. So now what happens? Do you cancel my ticket that I have in hand? Apparently transactions happened and money is now supposed to be reversed. Bertie, CEO Stadium Management, also was everywhere yesterday trying to explain this website crash and what is going to happen. But I still fear, and I'm going back to April 11th, and that's where my fear comes from, is if I have a ticket and I'm in the stadium, right, and it's oversold by 10,000 tickets, and it isn't really rectified like they say it is, or I make my way in along with 10,000 other people with my reversed ticket here.
Yeah. And
what happens then?
And then where
because
do you
it's
sit?
the safety of everybody at the end of the day. It is Chiefs and Pirates at the end of the day.
People can't sit in the
you
corridors
can't-
or in the
no.
stairs because that's emergency exits.
That was the AFCON final, actually.
It
If
was
we ever go there,
Yeah.
their last AFCON, the final, very badly planned in terms of, there was even a little bit of a stampede. But anyway, story for another day.
RPL 2009, the final of the Wanderers. I was watching, I was a journalist, and I got a phone call from the then CEO of the Lions Cricket, and he wasn't allowed his own in the long room. He was in another box. And he says, have a look here. So this is a 30,000-seater stadium. There are at least 40,000 people in here, and people were sitting in the stand. There were people just basically going in with one family with one ticket. It was an absolute cock-up.
No, I'm very nervous for the weekend. I hope that it can be rectified as they're saying that it would be. I know that it is now sold out, and I hope that whatever corrections they needed to make has been made so that we do not have a stampede, and it's going to be a delayed start again.
There's no doubt.
To kick off at this Nedbank Cup final. But for me, more than anything, it's the lives of people, the safety thereof, because you're going to be entertained, not
What they need to do is
dead
just
bodies at the
open
end
the
of it.
gates early. Open the gates
No,
early
but
and
the
then
gates
check.
are always open
check.
early.
Are
The
they?
gates open way before the match starts, 3-4 hours before already. So, but I also think it's a tendency of South Africans.
Yeah.
Like, we do everything last minute, right? Oh, we're going to the stadium. Yeah, we'll go 20 minutes before. Oh, there's a deadline. Renew your license, ID card. Oh, when are we going? 2 minutes before.
Yeah, what they should have done is set up fan parks on the beach. That would have been great.
What SuperSport actually has is partner venues.
Yes.
So if you can't make it, go to the partner venue, so they're quite big on that. But
Or go to Kings Park. Go across the road. There's a big space up in there. They have the braais after rugby games.
where do you really want to be?
You want to be inside the stadium.
Yeah.
But if you can hear it, then it's okay. Unlike United fans who sometimes duck earlier and then they're walking down the road and it's on the TV in the furniture shop and they're going, why did we leave?
Yeah.
Why did we leave?
Excuse me.
PSG and Arsenal are out. Sorry, not PSG. Arsenal are out after losing to PSG, and PSG will play Inter Milan in the Champions League final later in the month. So in June, I think it is. When is it the final? Yeah, it's on the 31st of May. It's right at the end of the month. 3-1 aggregate triumph. They lost 2-1 last night. McCallum says his team is the best in Europe. He said no, he hasn't seen a better team in Europe. And I thought that's not how you spell bitter. He sounded particularly bitter. They were all over PSG in the first 30 minutes. Donnarumma, the Italian goalkeeper, was outstanding for PSG. And I think they've got probably the best attacking strike force in Europe at the moment. And Inter Milan are going to have their hands full. They really are. I feel sorry for Arsenal, but it is what it is.
Who scored there? Ashraf Hakimi?
So it is. Sorry, I'm just looking down this year. So Dembele scored in the first time. Hakimi did score, you're right. He put the tie beyond in the 72nd minute. First goal was by Fabian Ruiz. So it's Ashraf Hakimi and Fabian Ruiz. Yeah. Okay. And Bukayo Saka got one near the end, and then Blaze went over the crossbar, which could have changed the game in Paris. It would have basically helped the aggregate score. But yeah, Arsenal out. And no English teams in the Champions League final for a first time in a long time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Kagiso Rabada's back in India, and they reckon he still needs more net time. When I first read that, I said net, and I thought, no, Kevin, not Dacha, net time. Sorry, not Dacha time. He basically hasn't.
Stop it.
He needs to train a bit more. So that's why he didn't play against the Mumbai Indians yesterday. He may still play against. He may play against.
So he's not playing because they said tomorrow. Yeah, they said Friday.
I think he's going to play tomorrow. Yeah, but he's fit. Even though he does. I mean, I still can't believe that he smokes cigarettes. It's mind-boggling for me. Mind-boggling.
Look, I've also been reading a lot of the reports that came out. And just surfing the web, kind of just to see the different reports and what everyone's saying, and it's kind of like a black dot next to your name, and no more than that. And so I guess. It's like I said yesterday when we were chatting to the SA Institute of Drug-Free Sport.
Galant,
yes, where it's excusable.
Mm-hmm. It's almost overwrought. I think some of the columns I've read have been almost like hysterical. How can he do this to black cricket South Africans? I'm going, what are you talking about?
I can't even take it that far.
No.
For me, it's just like face value. Like we said, human being making mistake, young enough to want to have a little fun, had fun, fell off the pedestal that we put him on, and our life goes on, right?
Well, as Khalid Galant said in another piece, Neil Manthorpe wrote something today, and Neil is a cricket writer, and Galant said, it's funny that no one complains about the binge drinking and alcohol abuse in sports by athletes.
But then shouldn't that also then be classified under recreational drugs? In order for us to make a noise. Because if it isn't, we're not going to make a noise, right? Because rules were meant to be broken. Yeah. So unless it's along there with your dacha, your cocaine, your heroin, and I'm missing one, there were 4.
MDMA, basically ecstasy.
Then we're not going to make a noise. We're not.
No.
Because it's kind of...
It's a noise
excusable for a lack of a better word.
Put it this way, I can see him coming into the change rooms, and if it was cocaine, someone's going to give him a bottle of Coke. They're going to, here you go, brew, but don't sniff it.
Kev, oh my gosh. Anyway, KG.
He's back.
He's back.
And he'll be playing again. And, by the time the World Test Championship happens on June 11, June 13, we'll going,
but if you're going to be naughty, don't get caught.
Yeah. I mean, he's playing in a white ball sport, not a white line sport, so it's a bit silly.
Stop it.
Rohit Sharma, the Indian captain, is now retired from red ball cricket. He's going to be playing white ball cricket, which is actually quite a good thing because he was on the verge of being dropped because he isn't in form, hasn't scored runs for a while. So he's actually taken a lot of heat off his selectors. So it's good for him. What else has happened? New Zealand Rugby said they've made losses. The All Blacks cannot market themselves.
The All Blacks can't market themselves?
So they made record profit, but the model that they've got is not sustainable. So, they lost $11.6 million. And that's a cracker.
19.5 New Zealand dollars.
That million. It's a lot of money. And basically rugby is on the bones of its arse, which is why South African rugby are now looking for an equity partner as well. But that deal that's now fallen through, and as Cash and Sports explained to us, it was flawed. Basically it was a loan that would have to be paid back for things.
How? I guess it's the how, it's the why. Because if you think of the All Blacks and you think of the Springboks, it's the biggest teams in the world. So when it is that they cannot market themselves, is it the way of the world? Is it just the way economies are going? Is it sport across the board? Is it just that money is too tight to mention and therefore corporates are just like, guys, we just all need to kind of look after ourselves. We really can only give you this much.
I think there's too many amateurs in rugby, to be quite honest with you, at the top level. And we've got too many little almost siphoned off competitions. Six Nations, Rugby Championship, Super Rugby's over here. There's URC Champions. It's almost too much. And then there's the July test matches. There's the autumn test matches. Everything
it's also
seems
the
to be
overloading
exactly,
again, you know. And hence, I mean, when you say rugby are you speaking home only, or are you sort of saying for either one of these teams, you know, that there's the amateurs that you mentioned?
Yeah. Well, we're going to be talking rugby after the break.
Not answering my question.
I know, I'm trying not to because I don't understand it. But I'm just kidding. You ask me NBA questions and I haven't got a clue. Just go straight over my head.
No, but I just want to say, I'm asking, is it the way of the world, you know, in terms of sponsorships? Or are you saying amateur, are you bringing it home specifically?
I just don't think it's run properly at the top level. I don't think it's amateur at the top level, even though there's some really good business minds up there, but it is amateur at the top level in terms of presidents who are amateur administrators, you know, and they're there for their sake. So they're not there for the sport's sake. They're there to be around. But
Thank you so much for answering my question, Kevin.
God, I was very confused.
We're talking rugby after this, right?
Yeah, about the sevens.
This is Omnisport Africa. We are putting African sport first. Live and on demand on your phone. Data free on the MTN network in South Africa. T's and C's apply. And online at omniaudio.africa. Because reading about it tomorrow won't help you today. When we created Omnisport, we wanted you to hear from Africa's greatest sports journalists. In South Africa, there was only one choice.
No big deal.
Omnisport proudly presents Inside SA Soccer with Brad Jakes.
Whatever that Chiefs can do, it would seem Mamelodi Sundowns can do better.
With over 3 decades as one of South Africa's most talented, decorated, and astute soccer journalists, Brad Jakes is the man the players, coaches, team owners, and officials listen to.
This is a brave man.
Inside SA Soccer with Brad Jakes, exclusive to Omnisport, where Africa comes to play.
Now that's a garage match.
Listen live now and on demand at omniaudio.africa.
Yeah, coming up next, Jakes is actually speaking about the derby a lot. He's talking about the technical team who say that the Chiefs are so highly motivated that they have to work on calming them down.
But no, they are. They have to be, because so much rests on this weekend. And again, I hope that he does touch on the ticketing issues, because for me, it's about the safety of the fans. And I hope that the ticketing issues are resolved and we don't have too many fans in the stadium, which then becomes a hazard.
Well, on the line, we've got someone who is probably need to calming down after watching the Sevens win the World Championship the weekend. Voyo, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, thanks, Aaron. How are you doing?
Good, thank you very much. Voyo, the Blitzboks haven't had the greatest season. You know, it's been up and down. You know, they finished 9th in Singapore. But how did they manage to dominate the World Championship in Los Angeles? They just looked like incredible. But what was the standout moments for you as a former Blitzbok and a coach yourself now?
Yeah, look, I think the most important thing is that although they haven't had a greater season, but the one thing that we always do in Sevens, we always go back and work on whatever you can fix from the previous tournament. And I think what Philip has done with the team is that they've gone back and really looked at what structures that they wanted. And I think they wanted to fix. And then as soon as they got to LA, you could see that the team was pretty focused. I mean, 5 games out of 5, that's quite unrare. And also, I mean, the opposition they played within that tournament just shows that the team was up there and they were ready for that. They were hungry for the tournament.
I guess, what was the secret recipe then for them to dominate? I mean, considering that you're way on the other end of the world.
Yeah, look, I think it's a matter of the focus and the mentality. I think once you hadn't had a good season, you always go back and look at what you can fix in terms of even your mental state, in terms of the players. So I think what Philip has done with the group is that they've gone back and looked at what was going on within the season itself, and obviously, like you say, South Africa's won LA quite a lot of times. America, in tournaments in America quite a lot of times. So they do have that in their background in terms of the knowledge of winning those tournaments. So going back was always going to be one of those motivation that we know how to win in America. So why not go and do it? And I think that's what the team went into. Also, just to touch on, I mean, their defense was ferocious this last weekend.
Yeah. I agree. Absolutely.
They made a lot of tackles. They were very aggressive within those tackles. So I think that's all in sevens. That's one of the biggest things that you can do for your side.
I mean, sevens is such a different sport from 15s, but it's all about short lines almost, which is still it's a 15s tactic. And one of the guys that does it best for me is Mfundo Ndlovu. He runs those little short lines that are devastating. They're coming back in the angle, hitting the gap, hitting the shoulder. Will he carry on? How old is he? I mean, he's a bit of a veteran, isn't he?
No, I think he's still in his. I think he's in his mid or just early 26 or 27. I'm not quite sure.
28. I've just checked. Sorry, I had to check.
Yeah,
he's 28. Okay, so he's plenty of time.
He's been coming along quite nicely. I think yes, he had a big injury that took him out for a little bit of time. I think this was one of his comeback tournaments, and I think you could see that South Africa had missed him. And I mean, that's a quality of the player to come back and still perform at the same level when you got injured.
I mean, he was part of the team that won the sevens in Cape Town in December. Yeah, and also that Quinton Nortje back, Ronald Brown, Dilton Lades. I mean, it was an excellent team. It was a strong team. It had good experience in it. But Philip Snyman has been working hard on changing this team. So, I mean, you watched Philip coach. Romy, what do you think about him?
Look, quite good. I mean, also, what is Vuyo's take on the coach, who obviously his approach to the blitz box, the revival, the on-field success?
Yeah, look, Romney, the one important thing about the system in South African Sevens is that it's a culture. It's a culture thing, and Philip was part of that culture. So Philip was a player within that culture, so he knew exactly. When he took over, he knew exactly what he needed to continue with to make the team successful. And I think if you look at just for him as a player, the type of player that he was, he's quite a hard bugger. He was quite a very aggressive player, very emotional player. Yeah. So you could see as a coach, he took that exactly and implemented it to the team. He wants to make the team accountable for their actions on the field, and he wants to make the team to make sure that the team upholds the team culture, which is touching people's lives and becoming pioneers of greatness. So for me, I think that's one of the things that Philip has touched on, and you can see, like I said, you can see the hunger on defense, which is part of the main thing that you want. Otherwise, you will have to be obviously catching up all the time.
I want to know, though, you talk about that hunger and what it is that he knows it so well that he brings it in and he wants to make that change, and it seems to be working. But how do you keep it? How do you keep the success? How do you keep it going, and not lose touch of that?
Yeah, I think it's the motivation. I think also we have to remember in sport, we have to keep showing players their great moments. You have to keep reminding them that this is what we're fighting for. You have to keep reminding their whys. And I think that's what the Springbok Sevens have done quite well, is that they always go back to their whys. Why are we doing this? Why are we playing this sport? Because it is hard. I mean, I still coach sevens, and it is the hardest thing because you can see the players are suffering on trainings all the time. So for you to decide that you're going to play sevens, you know that basically your social life is out because of fitness that is needed. So for the players, it's always about the why. Why are we doing this? Why do we want to achieve so much? And I mean, these guys are coming from, it's not the star players of South Africa. Remember, they're coming from a background where some of them do need that kind of stability. And I think that's what has always been driving the players.
As a former Blitzbok yourself, and now obviously a Sevens coach, how have you seen the development of Sevens rugby, the change in the tactics and the change in fitness levels? And how has it changed and evolved for you as a coach and as a former player?
Yeah, I think there's not much that has changed in terms of the tactical side of things. It's still, you still get a lot of kickoffs, tries coming from kickoffs. You still get a lot of tries coming from turnovers. So there's not a lot in terms of the game, but in terms of the fitness levels, you have to be constantly hiring the best SNCs, because that's ultimately where you win the game, is off the field with your plannings, with you making sure that the players can take the demands of the game. And I think that's where the problem, the biggest, I could say the gold mine where it lies, is that if you have a proper fitness trainer, if you have a proper structures for recovery, that's where you will get ahead with the teams. Because you must remember, all Sabres players are quick. You hardly get a Sabres player that's not quick. So if we all have the same speed and we all have the same strength, what is going to be the difference within on the rugby field? And it's going to be your fitness levels.
For me, sometimes it's like, why do they all have the same hairstyles? Because on Blitzbox players, known for having dreadlocks. Like, I always scratch my head, and like, you know that Samson and Delilah story in the Bible, like the strength comes from the hair. Like, please, Voya, you have to just break it down for me. It's something that has really baffled my mind.
Yeah, I know. You look, I'm not sure how it's the latest guys, but when we started it was one or two guys who just had dreadlocks, and then all of a sudden we just started seeing people coming with dreadlocks within the team. I'm not sure how it started with the generation. Maybe that's something that they started as well. Part of the culture is that, guys, if you hang in with dreadlocks, do it, because I mean, if the dreadlock boys are performing, things do tend to go well for South Africa.
But then there's those pure white guys who can't.
No, they can dread their hair too. Just takes a little longer. Can still be done, Kev. Can still be done.
More cornrows. Do you think this is going to be the spark, this World Championship, the spark for the Springboks and the HSB Sevens series, World Series next year?
Yeah, look, it's a tough one though. I hope so. I hope so. It's a tough one, because you must remember this is the end of the season, and you don't want to you want to end the season very well, but at the same time, it's now how many months before Dubai tournament? It's like going to be like 5 months. So it's how are they gonna keep those energies up when the guys go on a break and come back and try to obviously build from what they've ended with to try and dominate the series again. So that's going to be very tricky. But look, at the end of the day, this is what we do in coaching. This is what you have to do to keep your players motivated. So we have to, I guess, Philip has to make sure that he keeps his guys energized for next season.
Yeah. A quick change of tact. Have you been watching the under-20 rugby, the junior box against Australia? And I mean, what do you make of where they're going at the moment?
Yeah, I'm currently in PE actually. I did go to the first game. Couldn't go to the second one. But look, I think when I spoke to one of the managers, is a friend of mine. When I spoke to him, just asked him a bit of background about the team. The boys are quite young. Apparently, they still, most of the team is still. They still be eligible to play under 20 next year. So Kevin is just taken over as the head coach. So that tells me that he's trying to build something for the future, especially for the team. It is a very tricky one when it comes to under 20, because you only have 2 years with the players, and then they're gone. So you have to make sure that within those 2 years you're trying to give them as much as they can. Remember, these are coming from high school. These boys are coming from high school. So maybe the coaching was not so much at high school level, because it's all about the school, the dominant schools. And then they're coming together, and you're trying to obviously put in a campaign where you can try and teach them the way the Springboks play. So now I think for me, what I've noticed is that we do have a very good quality group. Coming back from halftime, losing from halftime against Argentina, come back and dominate the second half shows that this team has the potential. I think it's just a matter of they did get complacent against Australia,
no doubt,
and I think and also they when they lost their fly half, the kicking game changed a little bit, and Australia started dominating, and I think that's where the things changed. But this team has got something special. I think it just needs time, and I hope that Kevin will also be obviously kind to himself as well, because he's done well with the group.
Well, I like the fact that the coach is called Kevin as well. That's because I'm called Kevin. Voya, what an absolute pleasure. Thank you very, very much. We're definitely going to have you on again. You've actually summed up the seventh grade
beautifully.
perfectly. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, guys. Cheers.
You're more than welcome. And also, like he says, there's magic there. For me, it's how do they keep it?
Yeah, and South Africa always been good at under 20 tournaments and under 20 level. We won the World Championship with John Smith, and that team went on, that was in 98, I think, or 99. That team then went on to go and win the 2007 World Cup. So we got good youngsters, we got good strength coming through.
Great pedigree.
Great pedigree, and we've got good managers, and we got everything right apart from the marketing, apparently. Well, speaking of marketing, I think we'll see you all tomorrow.
Yes, we will. Till then, cheerio.
Not the sports news on OmniAudio.Africa with Romy Titus and Kevin McCallum.